This episode of the Council of the First Ones was recorded on November 15th, 2020.
Hello, and welcome to another Council of the First Ones. I'm your host, Kelly. Joining me today is David. Hi, David. How's your adultcollector.org going?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah, it's going really well. I'm doing a lot of planning right now, actually, on what to do for 2021. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
And I have to say thank you for allowing Council of the First Ones to be part of the Adult Collector fan page group on Facebook now.
Yeah, of course.
So we have an official page.
Absolutely.
So you can talk with all of us there.
That's right, a Council of the First Ones group, now part of adultcollector.org, and a network of pages and groups celebrating everything we love about He-Man and She-Ra. Yeah.
Also joining us is Shawn. So, how was your Thanksgiving, Shawn?
It was pretty quiet, and honestly, it was pretty nice. So, the whole lack of pressure to have the extended family at the table and just it's me, the wife, and the two kids. We just had like a kind of laid back time and took some time downstairs with a good old classics Castle Grayskull and all that stuff. So, I'm still giving that my dreamy eyes. It's sitting right next to me while I record, and I'm like, oh, you're still here. I love it so much. So
awesome.
Yeah. So there's that. So, and thanks for having me back on.
Well, today we are privileged to have Scott Toyguru Neitlich. He was the brand manager for Motu Classics when he was at Mattel, and now he is the creator of the Spectre Creations channel on YouTube. Hi, Scott. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's great to be back.
Oh, it's been so long since we've talked.
I know, it's with all the no conventions and everything this year, it's been even longer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is definitely true. So we know you've started your own YouTube channel, and we've all become addicted. We've talked about it a few times on the show.
Have you now?
Yes, we have. I love the director commentaries and all the behind the scenes information that we didn't know.
I'm thrilled you're enjoying it. It's awesome.
And recently, you came across some paperwork that might have solved one of the oldest mysteries in the Motu lore, Wonderbread He-Man.
Who had nothing to do with Wonderbread.
Now, just because Wondar did come with a loaf of bread and 3 certain colors on the back of his armor.
Well, you could call Wondar, yes, of course. But I did note that in the video. At the time Wondar came out, we were under the impression that maybe this had something to do with Wonderbread, but yes, all joking aside, it's really interesting how that all came together.
So how did you find this letter from this parent?
So quick backstory. I'm now in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is the greatest city in the entire universe. It has 300,000 people, 5 comic book stores, a water park, and a dinosaur museum. So
okay, I think I have to move south.
You had me at 5 comic book stores.
That's where you had me too.
Shout out to Salesfish and Acme Comics. They're both great comic book shops locally. It's been amazing. The community's been so welcoming, and definitely love it here. It was a good change from Southern California, where we really just wanted a better quality of life for our daughter, so she could have a yard and a street to pedal her bike in and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So big cross country move about 2 years ago, and when I moved out here, I started Spectre Creative as a consulting firm to help companies and individuals with it doesn't have to be toys, but really idea for projects, although most of my clients are toy related. People who have either ideas for product, toys, already have prototypes, need help making a prototype, need help getting their product into a big box store like Target or Walmart, or selling it on their own. And I basically help them fully develop their product. And what our specialty is really understanding the emotional connection between consumer and product, and why collectors collect, why children play. My partner has her master's from NYU in child play therapy. So we do really great work together, where I kind of bring the toy expertise and she brings the psychological, emotional expertise. And we've been able to help a lot of really great clients develop better product. And anyone who is interested can always find us on spectrecreative.com. But your question was about the YouTube channel, the Spectre Creative YouTube channel. So that was just giving quick background on what the company is. And the channel was basically formed in April when COVID hit, and I was really bored. So I decided I wanted something to do. I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to try putting together a YouTube channel. I have no idea, if I can pull that off, but hey, it'll be fun as a project. And it just kind of started happening. I started doing a few videos about my time on He-Man, and then started doing videos on each figure. And I started getting a lot of comments, people asking questions like, oh, could you explain, why this happens with case packs, or why there are always empty pegs at Walmart and Target, or, why do figures, what's a tool, and what does that have to do with anything? So I realized that, I'm obviously a big fan of YouTube, and I watch a lot of YouTube, but I realized all of the toy channels on YouTube tend to be, for the most part, reviews of product. There really isn't anyone who worked in the industry explaining how things work. And the great thing is, because I've worked for so many companies, I did work for Mattel for a long period of time, but I've worked for Jax and Entertainment Earth and Jada and Loot Crate for some periods of time. And really, the processes are all the same. And what really kind of shined the light on it was my partner and I are currently working on our own toy line, and being in connection with our vendors in China, I realized that anyone can get access to this information. Anyone can call a vendor in China and find out, minimum order quantities and costs and all of that stuff. So it kind of dawned on me that none of this is really proprietary. I would, of course, never talk about something that is proprietary to a company, like specific quotas or, secret information. But a lot of the basic logistics of the toy industry is kind of free game. And it's been really nice to make some videos explaining that. And the feedback has been very, very positive. So that's been great.
I was going to ask you, why we haven't seen any review videos on your channel.
But I have done that.
Oh,
check out the playlist, Scott's Reviews. I think that's what I called it. I haven't done that many, but I have done a few, mostly on Star Wars, Black Series, and some 3 3/4 figures. But
that's why.
I have done a couple.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I just look at the He-Man stuff, so that's why I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I'm not really actively collecting He-Man toys. While I think Origins is pretty cool, I already have a complete He-Man collector line in the term, what's it called again? Classics. And, it's like I don't really have room, literally, in my toy room for more than one kind of complete He-Man line. I don't know where I would put it. So I'll probably get some Origins figures, when they, some of Trapjaw and Scareglow I know are on their way. I know those are heavily wanted by a lot of people, and I think if I happen to see them, I'll pick them up. But I'm definitely not all in on Origins, only in the sense that I kind of already have, in my mind, my definitive Masters of the Universe collection, and a second one just kind of isn't needed for me personally. But I do think it's really cool what they're doing.
Well, it's interesting. You say you don't have room for a second one. What about the Masterverse line that Mattel is planning? That's essentially a continuation of classics. I'm not sure. Last I heard, it was possibly going to be just in-house with no involvement from the Horsemen. I don't know though. I don't know where they're taking it.
Well, and I know we are completely off topic when you asked me about how we did the one part, so we can circle back to that, I promise. But in regard to Masterverse, I did do a video on this. I think it's called like, my opinions on Masterverse or something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not with Mattel now and I don't have any insight into what they're doing, but I do know how Mattel works from being there for 10 plus years. And looking at the presentation they did for PowerCon, and looking at the images and the box art and that kind of stuff, saying based on the Netflix Motu Revolution show, my prediction of this line is it's going to be a lot less classics and much more closer to 2000X in the sense that it will be a unified style. It won't be in 2000X style. It will be in Heat Masters of the Universe Revolution style, which is an anime style, as Netflix has noted. So what we've seen Moss Man, I guess, as kind of as an example. What I'm guessing they're probably doing is using maybe some classics pieces and then overlaying like sort of armor, and in the case of Moss Man, like, mossy effects that look like it's kind of like a rubbery piece. They probably lay over him and then give him new like upper arms and legs. So they might be in scale to classics, but I'm not expecting them to be aesthetically in the same look as classics.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does. And I just wanted to add that, maybe it'd be a good video sometime about the question of what is the concern for toy companies of saturation of collectors who just have full toy shelves already because they've been offered so many toy lines and their shelves are already packed and they just don't have the room. What are the solutions? What's the concern from the perspective of a toy company?
Ooh, that's a good idea. I'm writing this one down. Are you kidding? I'm like, especially because of the way I've been pumping out these videos, I constantly need new ideas, and it's great because I get a lot of them from hearing from people in the comments. I try to give credit to people who leave them.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I can answer that question now, or you can wait. And
no, we want to hear the whole video.
Coming soon to a YouTube channel near you.
Right.
So just wrapping up with Masterverse. So I think it's going to be. I'm predicting it's going to behave a lot like 2000X, where collectors will really like it. We'll have to see if kids are into it. If it's at retail, kids will need to be into it in order for it to keep going. I think the $39.99 price point's a little high, but we'll see how it does.
Is it $39? I thought it was closer to $20.
I thought it was the $19.99, and the deluxe figure was the $39.
Maybe there's two SKUs. From what I heard is it's $39.99, but maybe that is a deluxe SKU, and I'm not aware of that. Maybe there's two different. I didn't know if maybe there's a basic and deluxe. That could very well be. What I heard was the basic figures $39.99, but I could be completely. I mean, if you look at Marvel Legends, their basic figures are clearly bordering at $24.99. They have the new X-Men figures that are out now with no Build-A-Figure piece are $5 more than the rest of the figures from the previous year. So I think I did do a video on kind of what to expect in 2021. Right. I think I've noticed that prices have not gone up in a while, and kind of my toy sense, my Spidey sense tells me, I haven't seen prices go up in a while. I'm kind of feeling like 2021, we might get like a significant price hike, which I've been through that on the other side too and know what it's like. So
I was expecting some kind of price hike, figuring with factory shutdowns during the COVID period.
I don't think it's as much the factory shutdown as much as it just is the cost of material and labor continues to rise. That's really where the cost comes from.
You're also dealing though, like in this era, there's so many different things vying for our attention and for our wallet. Like in the case of like G.I. Joe is back, and then on top of that, one that has seduced me into the dark side in a sense, not Star Wars related, unfortunately. I don't know why I went there, but the McFarlane DC figures, and those are 7-inch figures, and they're only $19.99. And the amount of articulation and the amount of detail on those are insane. So it's like, in that way, I look at almost what McFarlane's doing and hoping that's kind of what Mattel's trying to bring to the table with the Masterverse, because they're supposed to be the same height and everything else. And they were saying that their articulation is going to be even greater than Classics. So it's like, okay, we'll see how that goes, because McFarlane boasts, I think it's like 22 or 24 articulated pieces in their figures, or even more than that. I forget the actual number on the box off the top of my head. So, and Mattel was pushing it to 30, I think, or 32 or something. So.
I think one of the big advantages McFarlane has is they're not a publicly owned company, nor do they have much overhead. So
that's true.
That definitely helps them keep the price down.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that this smaller company has an advantage like that, whereas a company like Super 7 is another small company where, how they're set up, their toys are noticeably, a little bit pricier than other collectibles. Maybe it's for entirely different reasons. You would have the perspective on that.
I mean, I think a lot of it comes to it just comes really to the production run.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage that companies like Mattel and Hasbro have is that they're selling to, big box companies, Target, Walmart's, Amazon's. They have more customers. Super 7 has a much more limited consumer base, be it the ones that they sell direct, or, I know that they probably sell to like comic book shops and Entertainment Earth and Dorkside Toys and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But even like if you took all of the online shops, like your Dorkside Toys and your Megatropolis and Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store, all of them combined don't even come close to the amount that just Target or just Walmart take, or Toys R Us, when we had Toys R Us. So, one of the big reasons that Super 7 stuff is expensive, it's the same reason Classics was always more expensive at the time compared to other 6-inch.
Mm-hmm.
The fewer you do, the more it costs to make them. When you're below a factory's minimum order quantity, they charge you more, if they're even willing to make them at a lower quota. So, Super 7 was probably doing most of that stuff at a pretty low quota, and that's they have to pass that cost on.
Have you made a video about the Snake Mountain place yet? I'm very curious to hear your opinions on that, since it was a project that started at Mattel, and then ended up being given over to Super 7, and Brian Flynn was actually able to make it a reality, and we're just starting to receive them in the mail now.
Oh, and I felt terrible because as soon as Super 7 made it, they had the license yanked from them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, I'm like, really? I mean, not really, but I was like, wow, that just, looking at that from a 20-foot point of view. I've thought about doing a video, sort of, because I do have like some of the original B sheets from Snake Mountain from when I worked on it at Mattel, because yes, it was originally part of the 2016 Matty Collector Plan. I haven't had a chance to see one in person yet to really kind of do a dig down review. I've heard some issues with like the dungeon door and the throne, but other than that, I mean, people seem pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. They really knocked it out of the park. I'm sure everybody had concerns about what we saw in the first few runs of figures that Super 7 produced in the Classics line, different quality control issues, the quality of the plastic, stuff like that. But yeah, you couldn't. I really feel like you couldn't tell it apart from what Mattel would produce, like what they produced in the Classics Castle. It fits right in.
That's terrific. I mean, honestly, that's absolutely terrific. It's for everyone who wanted a Snake Mountain, I'm so glad that they were able to get it. And in a way, it really kind of is like the last Classics item and stretched the Classics releases all the way to 2020. So. If this is the final year of Classics, it's nice that it went out with a bang.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Let's get back to Wonderbread and have you found that?
Oh, yes. Right, the original question you asked like 22 minutes ago. All right, so the reason
we're good at getting off topic.
Yes, we're still on there. We're still talking toys. So the reason I gave that rambling backstory is because part of it was the whole fact that I moved from California to North Carolina, and the first year was basically crash landing because we moved here. I mean, we did check out the city ahead of time, but we didn't have any like relatives or friends or even jobs waiting for us. We moved here for a quality of life, not for a specific opportunity or to be close to anyone. Our relatives are in New Jersey and California. So after a year of being here and finally just kind of getting our feet on the ground, I started finally going through a lot of old boxes I had. And I kind of mentioned this a little in the video. So I had a few boxes of just old stuff from Mattel. And since I was doing the videos, I thought, I should go through those boxes and just see if there's anything in them that might make a good video. I knew that for the most part, it was just a box of, paperwork and that meant, meaningless stuff that would not be interesting. But I said, I'll spend a Saturday afternoon and I'll just go through it and just see if there's anything there. And that's basically what happened. I was going through it and, 99.9% of the stuff was, just spreadsheets and documents and things that just honestly would not even be interesting to people, or things that I couldn't make videos on because they're proprietary, which I would never, sort of betray Mattel that way. Even though I don't work there, I absolutely respect their, privacy. But then I found a memo document that on the top was a reply from Ray Wagner. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. This is in the pile of stuff from when I was working on the book, the 2009 art book. And I never actually looked at the second page. It was just a memo from Ray Wagner to the head of marketing saying that they should send something to a customer. And I, never gave it a second thought. So I flipped over the page, and then under Ray Wagner's letter, there was a letter from the head of marketing, which was the response, again saying like, oh, yes, Ray, I agree. Like, we'll send this customer a free toy, and we'll, change what we're doing going forward. I was like, I wonder what they're talking about. And then I flipped it over again, and there was a photocopy of the original letter from the customer. That was this woman, Barb. And so I read the letter, in her handwriting. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, let me think about this. What is she talking about? She's talking about getting a free figure in the mail that has no armor and no weapons and is a sort of a special edition of He-Man. Meaning it looks like He-Man, but in some kind of different colors. Like it's all gold or silver. And I'm like, I have no idea what that could be. But then I'm like, wait a minute, could that be the Wonderbread He-Man? Because, that fits the description. So then I start looking at the dates and like cross-referencing the dates with when the buy three get one free, or buy two get one free, or whatever. I can't remember if it was buy two or three, but the promotion that was run, and I realized that the dates match up perfectly. It's like when you put that puzzle piece together, and it's like, oh, it's a unicorn. So no, it was a donkey. That's what it was. Oh, it's a donkey. Sorry, I misquoted The Simpsons there. So yeah, so basically, then I reread the letter and I'm like, yeah, if I superimpose Wonderbread He-Man as the subject of this letter, that completely makes sense. Like it fits the description. It didn't have armor. It was a repaint of He-Man that felt cheap or less expensive because it didn't, and back then you also had to realize that the toy line was all about the armor, because the armor gave He-Man his powers originally, not his sword. Mm-hmm. So
right.
Before film, you had to sort of look at the line and look at the brand mm-hmm. pre-filmation, when you only had the first 4 mini comics as the sole source of storytelling. And with that, in frame, in the lens, if you will, you would say, oh yeah, anyone playing with He-Man toys would have been playing with them and been excited about getting new armor, because that would have given He-Man new superpowers. So the fact that he came with no armor would feel very lackluster under that lens.
And it's interesting that Barb actually referenced that, the force field, what did she call it? The force field harness or something like that.
Exactly. So
right.
So that was basically, yes, a big clue, because we're so used to looking at the brand from a post-filmation, post-2000s, post-classics world, where it's all about the sword, that you have to sort of shift your brain and think about the brand as it was in 1982 and 1983. So, and then for me, the final piece of the puzzle was really just thinking about my time at Mattel and thinking about when we did promotional items and how we pulled them off logistically. And, I gave a few examples in the video on the Spectra Creative YouTube channel, talking about how, for the most part, like Comic-Con exclusives, for example, and I will say like pre-me, because one of the things I really tried to do with Comic-Con exclusives was make them really, really special. Before I came along, Comic-Con was run by the summer marketing interns. It was just their summer project.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Comic-Con was not at all. I mean, now it is a huge priority for the company. But when I first came in 2006, 2007, it was just kind of like like we'll send whatever we can. And the exclusives, like if you look at Keldor, for example, which is one that was really beloved by us He-Man fans, that was just a new head, a new acid vial, and a lot of paint. So, very little development, if you will. It was literally just sculpting like the two heads. Or the Batman they had that year, which was him taking his mask off. It was just a new head. So that really got me thinking, because anytime Mattel does a free giveaway or convention item or anything that's not going to sell at full retail, you're going to do it as cheaply as possible. It's just that's the way it gets done. So kind of with that experience under my belt was kind of like that last bit of clue, thinking like, if I was a marketing director in 1983 and we needed to do a free figure for a mail away, we're going to do a repainted figure with as little deco as possible, reusing as many colors on the figure as possible, which is why they probably went with brown hair, because they could also paint the shorts and the boots brown and make him look different from He-Man. I don't think at all it was an attempt to look like Conan. It was just an attempt to do a logical repaint of He-Man. And, back then, again, He-Man wasn't a cultural phenomenon yet. So doing him in a different hair color, that like Mattel does that all the time, just toys in different colors. If you look at the DC superheroes line, pre-DC Classics, a great example is Doomsday. They released him in his traditional colors, and they did him in red and orange, because in one episode of Justice League, he fought Superman in a volcano and had red and orange shadows on him. And they did this in the Justice League line, so the marketing director was like, oh, well, let's just do this in the 6-inch line too. But, as a collector, that kind of makes no sense. Like, red Doomsday doesn't, make sense. Right. But from a toy perspective and from a logistic of let's find a way to do a cheap repaint, it makes total sense. So
just look at Faker.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect example too. Exactly. Or, Mossman, Beastman, or Stinkor, Merman. Anything that you could save, cost-wise, especially back then, was fantastic. So if you will, taking that logistical procedure, if you will, produce a free figure as cheaply as possible, and aligning that with the description and the time period, it really all made sense. And then the final thing was the weapons. So, for years, people, weren't sure, which weapons came with him. Sometimes people have said one weapon, two different weapons. And then suddenly we have this Man-E-Faces that comes with 5 extra weapons. And once again, I kind of just extrapolated what it was like working at Mattel. Well, okay, let's say you have this, call him Wonderbread, well, I don't want to call him Wonderbread, Savage He-Man, right? That's probably a better term for him. And suddenly now you can't ship him anymore because the president of the company has said that this customer is complaining that it's cheap and we don't want to cheapen the brand, so don't ship this as a free figure. Okay, you're now a marketing director and you're sitting on X number of units of finished product. What do you do with this? Well, the figure you could give away at internal events, at like New York Toy Fair. You could use it for different, in-person promotions where somebody knows what they're getting versus a mail away where it's a mystery. If you're in person, you say, hey, if you, play this He-Man game at this grocery store, we're going to give you this toy. That's a lot different than mailing away, buying 3 and getting 1 because there's a mystery. There's no mystery if you see what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, you have these weapons. So what I imagine is because all the weapons were in the same tool, the same mold, they made all 5 of them. And the idea was they probably just told their pick and pack facility, grab 1 figure, 2 weapons, put it in a bag and mail it. So here they have all these extra weapons that they produced for the Savage He-Man figure and nothing to do with it. So they said, okay, well, who's next in the lineup? Who's going into production? Man-E-Faces. Great. Do a running change, throw the 5 weapons in with him and call it a bonus. And we're done. I mean, that's honestly, I swear, how things get done is so all the time. Like, what's the easiest, simplest solution to just, getting rid of something like that? Once I sort of backtracked from the Man-E-Faces weapons and realized that that was a solution to the overstock of weapons they now had, I was like, oh my God, that makes all sense. Because why in the world would Man-E-Faces come with what makes no sense on its own, if you think about it? No sense why he would just randomly come with 5 red weapons. And looking at who else came with red weapons, and what if they had all these extra red weapons now because they can't ship the promotional figure? Well, they could either throw out the red weapons, or since they already paid for them, just shove them in the blister with the next figure, slap a burst on the packaging that costs nothing, and call it a bonus, and help sell more units.
Very smart. It's kind of like Keldor's sword. How in the classics line, how the factory didn't make the swords so that they separate. They're just one solid piece, and so you gave them away at a convention.
At PowerCon. It was at PowerCon that they gave them away.
Yes, perfect example. Yes, you're right. We took the vendor screwed up. They were supposed to separate. They didn't. We wound up with however many units. So yeah, it's like that's exactly it. We're like, okay, well, what do we do with these? Oh, I know, PowerCon's coming up. We'll just give them away, and people will think it's cool. That's exactly it.
That was one of the very first PowerCon exclusives. I think it was the first or second year of PowerCon that came out.
And it created the appearance that maybe we created those just for PowerCon and that we were doing something special, where really it was because we had overstock and nothing to do with it. And it was a good way of A, getting rid of the stock, and B, it would be goodwill to the fans. So it's like, hey, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
20 years from now, you're going to see those on eBay for thousands of dollars. And there's going to be a mystery. Where did the swords come from? Because these aren't separated.
Honestly, exactly. Yes. I really like that you brought that up, because that's a great way of really looking at it. It's a perfect modern example of the same issue.
Wow, so now we need a 2-pack of Wondar and Manny weapons with a copy of the letter from Barb.
I actually wish I had blanked out her last name, because she really doesn't deserve to get pulled into this, because I don't know if she's even still around. Who knows? But this poor one, people online are calling. I'm like, oh no. I just blanked out her last name. I apologize, Barb.
What do we call this He-Man, this mystery He-Man that's no longer so mysterious? Do we keep calling him Wonderbread He-Man, or do we just switch over, keep calling him Wondar, which I believe was the name you gave him for the classics line, or do we call him Savage He-Man? Or do we call him Angry Letter from Customer Complaint Letter He-Man?
His name is Barb.
Barb.
That's his name from now on. Barb.
Well, I heard people say Barbarian He-Man.
Barbarian, yes, exactly.
Oh my God, that is too perfect. Barb-Barian.
Yeah. Master
I
of
think
angry
Savage
letters.
He-Man is probably the best name. I think when the classics figures, Wondar is always going to be Wondar, but he also has the armor and a sword and a gun and the bread.
Yeah.
But I think this vintage figure, if I was in charge of the brand, which I'm not anymore, I think Savage He-Man would be the best name.
Wonderful. No, it's got to be Wondar, because I'm writing that Age of Wonder comic. He's Wondar.
All right, why not? Well, maybe he becomes Wondar when he puts on the black armor from the weapons pack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
So, like Prince Adam and, I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like how Ular, or He-Man was originally this savage guy from a tribe or whatever, and then he got dragged out of the jungle, and now he's a prince, and he's I don't know, he's royalty. That's how it happened, right?
Upgrade.
Yeah. He married up. I don't know.
He married up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know on one of your more recent videos, you talked about how the girls' lines acquired She-Ra from you guys, from the boys section. What I was wondering, because when you look at the style guide, it's totally different from what the toy actually looked like. Are the style guides made before the toy, or are they at the same time?
Are you talking about the 1987 licensor guide?
Yes.
That has like all the characters in it?
Right. And they were very in line with the Filmation, but nothing like what the girls' side did to She-Ra.
Yeah, I mean, so that licensor kit was absolutely, a spawn of Filmation, not the toy line. Like Hordak in it is, has blue skin. So that was basically, that kit was for people who want to make He-Man t-shirts or Frisbees or birthday cakes, which version to use. And Mattel, whoever was in charge at the time, decided that the licensable version to keep everyone on the same page would be the Filmation version of the characters, at least for the She-Ra characters. Probably to make them look closer to He-Man so that it would look like one brand. Because, the She-Ra toys looked very different. They looked like dolls.
I actually see the She-Ra dolls more of like a hybrid. Yes, we do have the rooted hair for the hair play and what they called outfits. Really, they cheaped out on the outfits because I also had the Barbies. So I know what Mattel could have done with the outfits. But the plastic itself made it feel like more of an action figure where I was able to mix them very easily into the Masters to play, but they still didn't have the same feeling like Teela.
Yeah, that's exactly, it. That's why they have that weird hodgepodge feeling, because they were basically half action figure, half doll, because one group started the project and then another took it over. So that's what, that's what you get when you don't have, kind of one creative, team or one creative direction from start to finish, is you wind up with something that feels not quite, Bill Beneke, who's a designer at Mattel, had a great line. He called it a sofa bed toy, because a sofa bed is, you're not getting a sofa and you're not getting a bed. You're getting something that doesn't really work as either.
Right.
It'll work, but it's not going to, so yeah, that's why the vintage She-Ra line feels kind of weird like that. And, at the same time, I'm guessing there was a lot of politics back then. If you watch the Netflix the Toys That Made Us, and you watch the Barbie episode, there's like some Barbie marketing managers that are cackling like evil sorceresses, like about how they got to screw over, Hasbro. They got to do this or that to Gem, and like, like they actually cackle like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way us ladies actually are all the time, backstabbing and all like that.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, again, like impose that kind of, you watch that Netflix documentary, and now imagine those women running the girls group and, seeing He-Man making more money than Barbie and feeling like that's not cool because Barbie is supposed to be the most popular girl on campus. And now He-Man's the most popular, person on campus. It's like Mean Girls, for toys.
Well, I'm sure it looked good on the spreadsheet, you know.
I'm sure it did. Spreadsheets are great ways to make toys.
Well, I think that's why, you know, people are so excited, especially for the She-Ra figures that they're making for the Origins line. I'm really, you know, as the person who owns the Origins fans group with over 17,000 members, thank you. I'm seeing so much excitement specifically for the She-Ra, you know, both the retail version and the exclusive one. And I think people are just going to buy a ton of those if they make more of them. And I hope that they do. I hope to see a whole bunch because they fit in a lot more with the figures than those old pop figures.
Now, have they announced anyone beyond She-Ra for Origins?
Announced?
Not
announced.
yet.
When the She-Ra Netflix cartoon, they announced that, and I was hoping that we'd see some actual action figures for Princes of Power, but you know, I would be a lot happier if we get a whole line of the 80s style Princes of Power characters in figure form instead of the dolls that we've seen or the beautiful large doll that we saw offered at what was it, PowerCon, like the Starburst She-Ra. They did a fantastic job with that one.
Well, I definitely don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I would not. If I was a betting man, I would say you won't see anything beyond She-Ra, and the Horde are sort of She-Ra, but they're not considered She-Ra because they're in. I mean, to be honest, if people had been paying attention, we should not have been allowed to do any POP figures in classics. But nobody was paying attention because it was such a small line and nobody was paying attention.
It snuck by.
Yeah, it really was, honestly. It really was something that, I mean, who knows? But I did a video about the legal rights over She-Ra versus He-Man on my channel, and it's a mess. Maybe they'll work it out. I hope they do. But unless if things aren't different from the way that I understand them, you won't get anyone but She-Ra.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe things have changed. I mean, I haven't been in Mattel in like 10 years now, so who knows?
Who knows? And I mean, I remember when Kevin Smith was being interviewed for one of the first times actually about the Revelation animated series that's coming out. He talked about the need for She-Ra in the series, that we could possibly see her in season 2 if there's a season 2, and maybe even a He-Man She-Ra Christmas special.
And again, She-Ra / Adora, probably yes.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else, Perfuma, Glimmer, Sweet Bee, that I'm a little more doubtful.
Right.
Like seeing Hordak on a upcoming toy list, to me, does not signify getting Perfuma anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But again, things could have changed. I have no working knowledge of what's happening now. I just know how they were when I was there. And there's a reason that you don't see them in the same line.
Right. And if you weren't the brand manager, then maybe we wouldn't have seen, well, first of all, we wouldn't have seen classics, period. And thank you for that, for even making it possible. But if you weren't the brand manager and classics was still a thing, then we likely wouldn't have seen, She-Ra figures, any Princess of Power figures, because you pushed it through. You saw this opportunity, you took it. It may have been a little under the table. That's fine, but I can completely agree and see that the current Mattel, maybe they want to, there's no maybe the leadership or the push, the drive for She-Ra in Origins isn't there because of the legal challenges.
Well, it's also a lot different because it's at retail. Matty Collector was only online. Yeah. So, you could always say it was, more like a convention item, like that She-Ra toy they did, 2004. And even like, my managers at Mattel, they even were, big on the whole idea of it's a lot easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission sometimes.
Right.
Such is life, yeah.
So that was kind of like how we got She-Ra into the classics line.
Wonderful.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to make, Sweet Pea. Oops. Mister got released. What?
Oh man. I mean,
So
just real quick, I imagine that the reason why they're able to get She-Ra into the retail line is because they already made the exclusive for the convention, and they were able to say, well, we already did it. There's a precedence. But
yes and no. I mean, it's basically like She-Ra and the Horde are kind of in like a weird legal limbo. It's like the same way Super 7 was able to do them in that 3 3/4 line, but the 3 3/4 line didn't have Flutterina in it, if you will.
I see.
So it's like you'll probably, I wouldn't be surprised with She-Ra showing up in entertainment or toy lines. What I would be surprised at is, Glimmer and, Angelic and, those kind of characters showing up. Anyone beyond She-Ra and Adora.
Got to get on it, Scott.
Oh yeah, that's my. I have full access to that stuff now. Sure.
All right. Shawn, you were going to ask something.
Scott. So the Savage He-Man he's basically been the urban legend of the Masters line for decades now. Is there any specific version of that before you came across this the letter from the customer that you kind of subscribed to and you were thinking that might be it? Or did you have like an open-mindedness to it's whatever we discover along the way? And is there a specific one that you wished it would have been if it wasn't the one that that you were uncovering in your video and with that letter?
So, well, I mean, I never had any kind of agenda, surrounding him. I was always I always was not interested in solving it because I wanted to be the guy to solve it while I was at Mattel, just because I wanted to make toys of it and I wanted to, it would have been a great publicity thing.
Sure.
And I remember one of the first things I did was I went to the archive, or the woman who's in charge of the archive, Helen was her name, and I requested all the information I could on this figure. And so I got a little manila folder and opened it up, and the only thing in it was a letter from Val Staples asking who this character was. So, so I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to find anything here. So I thought, I was kind of convinced that, I said, look, it's been 30 years. If this was an actual Mattel promotion, especially through Wonderbread, some kind of proof would have shown up by now. Like some kind of flyer or receipt or photograph or something. And that's really all I wanted. I was like, look, and the fact that no photograph or, any kind of documentation showed up, I was convinced, and I said in the director's commentary for the Wondar figure, that it was a bootleg, that it was kind of like those Fraza T figures that came out of, Argentina, I think, where, a company got a hold of the mold, and with He-Man's popularity, they just pumped out a bunch quickly and sold them on the black market. That happens all the time, even now. You go to swap meets and you see Spider-Man packaged with Power Rangers and, Batman on Superman's body. So I kind of figured that's what it was. I even said in my solution video that, the first thing I want to admit that I was wrong. Like I said, I thought this was a bootleg toy. And I think the fact that there was a lack of documentation, the fact that there actually was that flyer, the buy 3, get 1 free, has been there. Just it didn't have a picture of the figure on it, and it didn't have any kind of indication that this is what you were going to get from that. But that buy 3, get 1 free flyer constantly was showing up with the figure in images. And I think that was really the clue that linked the two. We just needed someone finally with this letter to really show, give definitive proof that the two were linked. I could honestly, however it was solved, to me, I'm just excited that, there's some information finally, because as I said, all Mattel had was a letter from Val Staples and an image he sent in saying, what is this?
Amazing that it's solving 2 mysteries at once, because I was always curious why it didn't show you what you actually received in the mail. Like I thought, like that's crazy. Like, I've never heard of anybody saying, yeah, I got this figure, I got that figure. And so for you to be able to tie this together is incredible. Yeah, and you will forever go down as the person who solved the mystery of Wonderbread He-Man. Congratulations.
Well,
Yeah,
believe me, wasn't looking to earn a merit badge or anything over this. You know, but I also think part of the mystery, and this is actually a great kind of wrapping up point on it, is that one of the reasons so few people have this and so people know about it is I have a feel. Well, we know from the letter because Ray Wagner told the head of marketing, Mark, to stop sending the figure. So you have to wonder how many of them got out before Barb wrote this letter, and then probably as a direct result of this letter, they stopped shipping the figure. And that's, again, hence why they had all the extra inventory of the weapons that they had to give away at PowerCon, or given with Manny Faces in this case. And they probably, I think I said in the video, they probably then just started for the promotion sending any random figure that they just happen to have in stock. Yeah. So people would just like know, oh, I mailed in the buy one, get one free, or buy three, get one free, and I got a Skeletor, I got a Merman. So the number of people who actually received a Wondar or a Savage He-Man are exponentially even smaller now because this letter cut off the flow. So it's like that kind of explains that part of the mystery too, of why there's a lack of evidence, is because very few of them, I think, were ever actually sent to the public.
Well, the next
because they had, sorry to interrupt, but because they had extra stock now, because they couldn't send it out for the promotion, and let's say they're sitting on, you know, I'll call it 5,000, 10,000 units of the figure, much like how they were able to pack the weapons with Manny Faces, these whatever 10,000 units likely got used for whatever in-person events were being done to promote Mattel, which is why I think people have so many different memories of how they got it. Because, I got it from a grocery store. They probably did, because that grocery store might have been having a live event and saying all kids who come to this event get a free He-Man toy.
Yeah.
So it explains that too, of why so many people have different memories of how they got it. It's like all the pieces kind of come together.
Kind of reminds me of how at one point in the classics line, a bunch of people received a free figure as an apology. And I got Merman. I got a Merman figure, and I thought, well, thanks for the Merman figure. I'll make a custom out of him or something. And I figured there must have been like, it must be that a bunch of people got just random figures. So if 10 years from now, I should say figures that you had a lot of in a warehouse, right? Some extras. And so 10 years from now, if people look back and say, oh, yeah, everybody received a free figure, which was it? And then people would argue, oh, I got everybody got Merman. No, everybody got Trapjar or whatever it was.
Yep, that's exactly.
Yeah, I think it was Merman and Stratos they were handing out.
Yeah, no, I mean, you absolutely, there were actually, I think, almost 5 or 6 SKUs that I think went to that promotion. So, that's exactly it. So it's like, because they had extra stock and it probably went to all sorts of small town promotions after that. That's why it created so many people having memories of getting the figure in, this way or that. So, yeah, crazy.
Man.
The one thing I wanted to give you a compliment on, Scott, too, and it always goes back to classics, because that's, to me, that's the pinnacle of my masters, just the way it works from my collecting standpoint. But the fact that you got Wondar, Savage He-Man, whatever you want to call him, the fact that he's a part of it, and then you have these other figures like Vicor and Demo Man and stuff, and you have the ability with what you were doing and planning with the line to like fill out a breadth and a width to this line that even the vintage didn't go there. And I love the fact that, the fact that you have the letter, and it kind of helps solidify this is the deal with the giveaway and stuff. But it's like he's been around for a while, because yes, he was a part of classics as well, and he was even in the voting recently for Origins and everything. And it's like he's still there, and then like the headcanon that I have, it's like, he fits into it, whether or not it's following the bio or whether it's just enjoying, here's another figure to add to this collection that's already impressive, but you still have new things to bring to it, or new things redefined, or old things redefined, I should say. So I wanted to thank you for that, because he's actually one of my favorites in the entire collection, just for the fact that that power sword with the black is one of my absolute favorite power swords. I did not know all I needed was the hilt to be black for me to just go, that's awesome. But when I saw him, I'm like, oh, man. So the fact that you added that little touch to it as well, it's like, you made this character into something that he's not just an urban legend. He's also this figure incarnate on my shelf that's like, here's this offshoot He-Man, and what could you do with him? What's his adventures, So thank you for that. I appreciate it, because like I said, he's one of my favorites.
That's awesome. That really was the whole point, and I'm thrilled to hear that, because I think things like that, or Green Goddess is another one that are like, now, I mean, she's showing up in Mega Blocks, like, because of classics, able to get a lot of these characters like really recognized as legitimate figures that can be made as toys. That was the whole point. So thank you. I'm really proud of classics. I really am. And for all the people that have been happy with it, myself included, it was really an honor to have gotten to work on it.
But we never got the meteors.
But there's always a bridge.
Some people are never happy.
Yeah, what are your plans for next year, Scott?
Well, I'll be hiding from the virus in my underground bunker.
Right.
I have a lot of big plans, and I hopefully will be able to announce soon. As I mentioned earlier, I've been working on my own toy line that looks like it's getting very close to shipping to retail, which is going to be very exciting. It's not action figure collector related, but I think people will be very excited when they hear about it. And I'm continuing to work with people who need, kind of extra assistance or extra advice on how to get their toys or product to market. I mean, I don't just do toys. I run an e-commerce site for avocadoshair.com, which is a really amazing avocado-based shampoo and conditioner, which my wife now swears by, because we got samples because I'm running the website.
Nice.
If anyone needs a great shampoo, avocadoshair.com.
Sounds delicious.
Who has ideas for product and is looking for just a little guidance on how to get it to market or how to develop prototypes, and really wants to understand the emotional connection of between customer and product and how to sell more. That's what my company is all about. So you can find us on spectracreative.com or check out the YouTube channel. New videos published pretty much daily, sometimes twice a day if I'm really crazy. And toys. I still need some Marvel Legends to fill out my shelf. So hopefully Hasbro will make Spider-Man Spot villain soon, and I can stop hounding them.
There you go.
Well, I would love to thank you for joining us, Scott. It's always a pleasure having you visiting us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Really, the pleasure is mine. I love chatting toys. So anytime you guys want me on, I would love to join. I really appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great night, and hope we'll be in touch soon. Stay well and healthy, everybody.
You too.
You too.
Good journey.
Good.
Good journey.
It sounded like I was cool. Now I sound like copying. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
I would like to thank Scott Neitlich for joining us tonight on the Council of the First Ones. Remember, you can find Origins, Mega Block, all at your local Walmart for a limited time only. Then it goes to all retailers in 2021. So the Walmart days are coming to an end.
Music to my ears.
Hey, as of broadcast of this, the recording of this, we only have about 25 more days before it hits Target and all the other retailers. So
that's going to be so nice.
So we've been hopefully good boys and girls that Santa will bring it to Target.
Yeah.
And remember to get your up-to-the-minute news on He-Man.org relating to anything Masters of the Universe. Till next time, good journey.
And this is David Clark, owner of adultcollector.org. Always amazing to speak with Scott, and to both of you. It's our own little mini con, PowerCon every other weekend, and I appreciate it a lot. So thank you, and thanks to everybody for listening. Good journey.
And this is Shawn Skvarna. If you want to hear a little more Masters, check out Legends of Grayskull podcast, where me and Matthew Dooch talk the history, mystery, magic, and mythology of Masters, Princes of Power, and anything Masters related. So thanks again for letting me come on and have my mini PowerCon with you guys once more. And until next time, good journey.